Hey guys, it's John P. Welcome to this edition of Geek Beat. We're gonna go fast. If you're a fan of Ricky Bobby like me, you like to go fast, and this is one vehicle that will fulfill that need quite nicely. We're gonna take a look at the 2015 Dodge Challenger Shaker Scat Pack. That's a lot of names in there, but this particular vehicle has all those designations. So what we're looking at is really the epitome of a modern American muscle car. So we're going to give you the full walk around. Scott and I are double teaming here with these two Vixia cameras, so we're going to show you the whole thing. Now, as we get started, the first thing I want to tell you is, because I spent the last week driving this car like a hooligan, I'll admit it. But what I've come to decide is this is not just a hooligan vehicle. This is actually a car you could drive on a daily basis because, check this out. It's got a normal full-size trunk. Now that's a big deal because when we think about sports cars like a Corvette or something like that may be a tad quicker than this thing, they also give up a lot in the process. And that is one thing you don't do with this Challenger. It's a two-door vehicle with a proper trunk. You can fit quite a bit of luggage in there. I did it, I tried it out. But on top of that, you've still got this gorgeous modern body. So I really like the lines on it. It looks aggressive. It's got these huge 20-inch wheels and low profile tires. Now, one thing I will tell you is that the tires and wheels are the same on all four corners of the vehicle. Now, I tend to think that this might give us a little bit of a disadvantage in certain situations because this car seems like it could use more traction on the rear end. However, if you go the route of other pure sports cars, you're going to have mismatched tires front and rear, which means you can't rotate them. So that can be a little bit of a problem in terms of cost down the road. Cost is a big factor. This vehicle's primary competitors are the Mustang GT, the Camaro, and those cars cost more than this thing does. The one we're looking at here, fully optioned up, sticker price 46 grand. I was driving around all week before I even checked that, and I thought this was a $60,000 vehicle. So that's a pretty big deal because I was even thinking, well, at 60, it's not a bad deal. But at 46, before any discounts, this is actually a fantastic deal. So I really like also the stripes that they put on the vehicle. I think it makes it really sporty looking. It's a good looking car. And you've got to love this huge bulge in the front hood here with the big 392 Hemi badge on it. Now, the funny thing is, as I've been driving this car all week, the first question everyone tends to ask me, is that a Hellcat? The Hellcat being the big brother to this vehicle, which is essentially the same motor with a supercharger strapped onto it. This one has about 485 horsepower. The Hellcat's around 700, just over 700. I don't know what you do with 700 horsepower because this bad boy right here is hard to get it to just stay fit with the tires on the back end anyway. It's got plenty of power. Well, let's climb inside and take a look. One thing I really love about this vehicle is the sound it makes when you're cranking up the engine. Just listen to this. Oh, it's got that deep throaty rumble. It just sounds fantastic. In fact, Scott, hop out and stand back there and get a little bit of audio with me revving it up a bit.
Give it another.
It's hard to get enough of that, isn't it? To be honest. Okay, so we're sitting inside the car. And actually, although this is a muscle car, and I tend to think of this as the kind of thing that I'd want to take to a drag strip, you know, and just burn rubber everywhere, it is surprisingly laden with technology, which makes it fantastic. So let's take a look at some of this. First of all, we've got the in-dash component here. Now this is a big screen. The first thing that everybody says when they get in here is, wow, that's a big screen. It's an 8-inch screen, But more importantly, we've seen nice screens in vehicles before. This car has a really responsive screen. It's a very responsive system. So they put enough power behind it that when you tap on the control buttons, you'll notice that it smoothly scrolls through these options and things. It's actually quite quick. And that makes a big deal in usability. Now on top of that, they've given you some nice features like vented seats. You just tap a couple times. Here you go, Scott. Let me give you some AC in your seat there. That's always nice. The climate control here, it's touch screen, so you can crank it up and down here, or you've also conveniently got manual controls down here, which I think is a big deal because there's a lot of companies that leave these buttons off, and then that makes it really hard to adjust your AC when you've got to scroll through menus while you're driving. I'm not a big fan of that. You've got, of course, on the radio side, you've got the XM satellite, you've also got AM FM. Your media control hooks into a Bluetooth phone and lets you play anything you've got on your Bluetooth, whether it's a YouTube video or whether it's an MP4 or MP3 or anything. So that's nice. But you've also got the complete suite of apps available to you here, and you can favorite them if you want. So this car, for example, has a Wi-Fi hotspot built into it, and you can name it anything you want. You can password protect it, etc. It has Yelp built in, which is fantastic because I don't know about you, but when I look for restaurant recommendations, that's where I go. But here's the fun part. You've got these performance pages, and these, the car, they know we're gonna drive it like a hooligan, so they're gonna give us the kind of tools that we wanna use in order to see how we're doing when we're doing that. So the first thing that pops up here is our main screen where we've got things like our timers. So we can see, how are you doing on the 0 to 60 times, quarter mile, etc. For example, here's our best time. I managed to pull a 0 to 60 in 4.7 seconds. By the way, that was in 102-degree Texas heat and with a passenger in the car. So this vehicle is really, really fast, especially if you can get it in the right conditions. We've also got different gauges we can check out here, so you can check your coolant temperature, oil temperature, etc. We've got more gauges here, intake temperature, air temperature. Now I really like this one, the G-force meter is fun because it's going to show you in real time what your G's are for acceleration, braking, and cornering. And then we've got a little engine meter here, which is nice. It's showing us things like oil pressure and horsepower and torque in real time. So as you drive around and you give it some gas, you're going to be seeing what you're generating there. How awesome is that? What's also cool is over here in the dash, we can see many of the same performance metrics. We've got a speedometer screen here. We've also got a vehicle information screen, so we can get things like our tire pressure, there's your coolant temperature, etc. But then the next one down is the performance meter. So here's where you've got a built-in 0 to 60 timer, a built-in 0 to 100 timer, quarter mile, eighth mile, all these different timers just sitting there ready for you to abuse. So I hope you've got a big budget for rear tires. Fuel economy, now you can see I've not been doing that great with this vehicle, 11.1. Now they claim that you can get 15 in the city and 25 on the highway. This has been all in the city, and every single person in this building has made me take them for a ride, and you know what kind of rides we've been taking in this thing. Still, we're getting 11 miles a gallon. I don't think you buy this car because you want fuel economy. There are lower end versions of this car that you can get that you can get a little better mileage out of. This one is the one you get to shred tires. And then we've got standard stuff like the trip information, audio, etc. So all in all, it is well appointed with all kinds of gadgets and electronics. But let's take it for a ride. Okay, I know what everybody wants to see first is let's make this thing move. Okay, so here's how we're gonna best do that. First thing we're gonna do is we're gonna activate launch mode. So over here in the dashboard, we've got the there's a super track pack button. We push that and it brings up this launch control window. And the first thing we'll do is we'll set our RPMs for our launch control. This is basically where the car is going to pop the clutch. So we'll put this, let's say 2,500 RPMs for now. We're not going to go too far on this, but we're going to rev it up a little bit and take off really quick. Once we're done setting that, we're going to go back and we're going to hit activate launch mode. Now, as soon as we do that, it tells us up here to launch, press brake and quickly apply full throttle. So both hands on the wheel. I'm going to give it full throttle. As the RPMs come up, I'm going to take my foot off the brake and we're going to take off like a bat out of hell. So this bad boy will absolutely move. And you know, I think that's the reason they call the big brother the Hellcat, because frankly, as fast as this thing is without the supercharger, pretty much you'd have to be the devil to drive around with the supercharger. When you're not juicing the throttle, actually it's pretty tame. I mean, the ride is reasonably compliant. These roads are not too bumpy, but there's a few little bumps and they don't beat you up too bad. The seats are very supportive and they're plenty cushiony. And the engine isn't too terribly loud when it's just kind of rolling down the road without too much throttle. Now, as soon as you give it a little bit of throttle, you get that nice throaty grumble, which frankly becomes addictive. You just want to hear that a lot after you've been in this car for a while. And cornering is surprisingly much nicer than you would think it would be, because even though it's a fairly heavy car, the steering is very responsive. Just have one bit of bad news about the old Challenger here. They're coming to pick it up in just a few hours. So my time with this car is almost up, but that doesn't mean yours has to be. If you're checking out American muscle cars or pretty much anything else that would serve the needs of a speed freak, definitely make sure and check these out. There's just a little bit of a trick to it. The Shaker Scat Pack edition of this car sold out last year in 4 days. So not sure if you'll be able to get your hands on one or not, but hey, put your orders in early or check them out on the used market if need be. As for now, I'm gonna go have some fun with this for the time I've got left. That's it for this episode of Geek Beat. You guys have a good one and go fast.